It was late night time. Outside the bedroom, a pair of bloodshot eyes stared intently through a slightly ajar door. Mr. Thomas was completely focused on his son and daughter-in-law. It had been a week since he had moved from the rural to Hanoi to live with the couple, as advised by his son. He hadn't slept through the night since. Every night the symphony of love echoed repeatedly, leaving him breathless. The first time he saw his daughter-in-law in such an exposing state, he felt as if his long-held desire had finally been realized. Their bed was located near the entrance, allowing him to view the exhibition while basking in the dreamy glow of the night lamp. Her body was as white and beautiful as a marble statue with long, delicate legs. The next morning, as the early sunlight streamed through the window, Mr. Thomas eventually opened his eyes. He looked at the clock. It was already 9 a.m. After freshening up, he came out of his room to find Sophie hustling in the kitchen. Her long, lovely legs made him anxious. Sophie turned around to welcome him, shocking him. "Good morning, Father. Are you already up?" She grinned at him. She was beautiful like an angel. Her nice, beautiful face caused him to freeze for a few seconds before he caught himself. "Yes, I am up." "Has David gone to work?" he inquired, attempting to change the subject to conceal his shame. "No, he's still sleeping. He has the day off today," she said. "Dad, go freshen up. I'll wake him up for breakfast." Mr. Thomas went to the toilet. Meanwhile, Sophie went upstairs to wake her husband, but he preferred to sleep in and did not get up. She returned to the kitchen to make breakfast. Sophie could clearly hear the water pouring from the shower because the downstairs bathroom was open and close to the kitchen. Despite her efforts to concentrate on arranging the table, the sound of running water made her heart accelerate. Earlier that morning, she had opened the door to her father-in-law's room to wake him up, which she never did because he was rarely awake early. As soon as she opened the door, she had to cover her lips to keep from gasping. Her father-in-law was resting down comfortably, his blanket pushed aside and his wealth on display. Sophie was hypnotized. Her gaze remained fixed on that solid asset, and she tiptoed closer. My God, she thought, why is it like this? Without a fraction of self-control, she might have succumbed to her inclinations as a woman. Even though the sound of water from the toilet had stopped, he hadn't emerged yet. Sophie edged closer to the toilet, curious and anxious. Strangely, Mr. Thomas had failed to fully close the restroom door. The aluminum door was ajar, exposing a thin space. Sophie's heart beat as she looked through it, clearly entranced. Inside, Mr. Thomas was still adjusting himself. Despite being over 50, his body was incredibly muscular and powerful, towering about 1.8 meters tall and with a gorgeous face that exuded charisma. David may have inherited his father's beautiful looks, but what grabbed Sophie the most was, well, you already know, she thought. What a shame after his wife died. He probably left this unused for decades. What a waste. Breakfast. The morning was pleasant with David's sense of humor and wit. Sophie glanced at the two men sipping beer together, but her mind drifted back to the scene she had watched earlier. The memory made her body warm with anxiety. While she was deep in thinking, Mr. Thomas unexpectedly spoke up. "David, you're not getting any younger. You two should think about giving me a grandchild soon. I'm old already, and I'd hate to pass on without seeing my grandson's face." "Yes, we want that too, Dad," David said. "But we're waiting until our finances are more stable." "You're still young and strong, Dad," he said with a giggle. "You say that, but your mother passed away over 10 years ago. I'm not getting any younger. You waited until you were over 30 to get married. If you don't hurry up, how can I face your mother in the afterlife?" He turned to Sophie. "Hey, if you won't give me a grandchild, go out and find a baby for me to raise. I don't care whose child it is." "Are you serious, Dad?" "I have to go to Saigon for a week for work," Sophie said, smiling. "Since I'm so beautiful, you better keep a close eye on your daughter-in-law, or you might end up babysitting someone else's child." "I'd babysit anyone's child, as long as it's from my pond. I'll love it all the same," Mr. Thomas quipped, causing all three of them to laugh. Sophie got up to clean up after the small dinner while David excused himself to go out. Sophie began mopping the floor once she had finished cleaning the dishes. Mr. Thomas sat close, pretending to read the news on his tablet and sipping his morning coffee. But the words swirled about the screen as his attention was drawn to the sight of his daughter-in-law moving across the floor. He suddenly switched his iPad to camera mode and recorded her. He had never seen a more beautiful woman in his life. His son was truly fortunate. He must have done something extraordinary in a previous life to marry such a woman. He frantically clicked the stop button and dashed to his room, terrified that he might lose control and make a catastrophic mistake. Mr. Thomas closed the door behind him with a loud click. Sophie smirked, having caught his straying eyes. The longer he stared, the more she teased. Her flirty disposition was natural. She has always relished the thrill of conquest. Poor father-in-law. She reasoned he'd been alone since his wife died, and with a body and assets like that, it seemed a shame to leave them unused for nearly a decade. With Sophie's presence, something inside him was reawakened. Inside his room. Mr. Thomas took out his phone and played again. The priceless video he had just made. He relaxed, took a break, and then went outside again. But Sophie was nowhere to be found. Maybe she'd gone out. He sighed and climbed up to the roof for some fresh air. As he passed the second floor, he observed the door to his son's bedroom open and the sound of running water coming from the bathroom. His heart skipped a beat. Sophie seems to have gone upstairs to take a shower after cleaning. Standing in front of the door, his pulse racing. Mr. Thomas pondered for a long time before deciding to go inside. He crept in slowly, as if a robber would. Halfway through the room he hesitated, shook his head and started to leave, but instinct took over. Reasoning. Sophie had not locked the door as he had expected. She most likely imagined it was a secluded area and that her father-in-law would be resting downstairs. Mr. Thomas nearly passed out as he gently pushed the door wide. Despite his mental preparation, he was nonetheless stunned by the spectacle in front of him. He turned to depart, but was unable to move. His legs felt like they were burdened down with stones. He wanted to rush in, but he lacked the courage. His family would be devastated. His dignity would be shattered before his son's eyes. Sophie stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. As she turned around, her foot slipped and she almost fell. If she hadn't grabbed the door to keep herself stable, while regaining her equilibrium, she spotted someone staring at her. Her heartbeat skipped. Her husband had gone out, leaving only her and her father-in-law at home. She blushed, embarrassed. Sophie requested permission to leave that afternoon, hoping to avoid her father-in-law. She went to see her old buddy Linda. It wasn't far. A 15-minute cab journey took her to a lovely lakeside villa Linda's parents had purchased for her. Sophie let herself in, like she usually does. Linda rarely closed the door unless it was night or she was away. Sophie gently closed the door behind her and went inside. However, the house was unusually silent. Linda was nowhere to be found. Sophie assumed she was still sleeping. It's Sunday, so she's not working today. She went up the stairs to the second level to wake up her friend for coffee. But as she got closer, she started hearing strange but eerily familiar sounds. Her cheeks reddened. She wanted to turn back, but curiosity drew her onwards. "Alex, I'm so happy," a female voice groaned. "Me too, sis. I'm so happy," came the response. Sophie froze. "Wait, Linda is with someone. Did she call him M?" M. That isn't her boyfriend. Her heart raced. She realized her pal was involved with someone younger. Clearly an affair. Her face grew scarlet as joy and amazement overcame her. She stepped away and went downstairs, taking a moment to calm her beating heart. After 5 minutes, she got orange juice and sat by the lake while waiting for her buddy. Then she hesitantly called. Linda answered the phone after 3 rings. "Hello, what's up?" she inquired, sounding out of breath. "You sound like you've been working out or something." "Ha ha, no, just doing some exercise." "Why?" Come down to the lake. Cafe. I'm outside your house, Sophie said. Okay, give me 5 minutes, Linda said. Linda emerged 10 minutes later, heading rapidly towards the cafe where Sophie was sitting, gazing out at the lake. Did I keep you waiting long? She inquired. You said 5 minutes. It's been 30. What were you doing in there? Sophie inquired, fuming. Linda giggled and ordered a drink, taking a seat near her. So what brings you here? So suddenly you didn't even text ahead. Sophie smiled and replied, Can't I just miss my best friend and want to chat? Linda wasn't convinced, though. Come on, I can see right through you. Something's up, spill it. There is something. Sophie confessed, her voice softening. I knew it. Linda leaned closer now. What happened? Are you and your hubby experiencing problems? Not at all. David and I are fine. The issue is with my father-in-law. Your father-in-law. Linda's eyes widened as her heart pounded. Wait, don't tell me you two know. God, no. Sophie snapped, flushing. Nothing has happened. Recently he has been acting strangely. The way he looks at me is different. And I caught him. Sophie trailed off, her voice scarcely audible, her cheeks flushed with humiliation. Linda stared at her for a long time, before suddenly laughing, forcing people nearby to look over at them. Sophie became flustered. You devil, what's so funny? You, Linda gasped as she laughed. You are blushing like a teenager. I swear your expression says it all. There's nothing funny about this, Sophie mumbled. Look, Linda remarked, finally settling down. Your father-in-law is above 50, correct? After being widowed for nearly a decade, she was still healthy and well-fed before experiencing a sudden loss. A young, stunning daughter-in-law like you appears parading around in scant clothing. How can you expect him not to be aroused? Do you think it's normal? Sophie questioned timidly. Totally. But most importantly, don't lie to me. Deep down, you're not only uncomfortable, you are intrigued, perhaps even excited. Sophie's eyes widened. She looked at her buddy, taken aback by how well Linda understood her unsaid feelings. Don't look at me like that, Linda murmured, sipping her drink. You led a sheltered life. You only ever knew one man, your husband. That's why you're feeling strange about this. Do you think everyone feels that way? Sophie asked, her voice shaking. I believe most people do. Let me ask you this. If you found out David cheated on you, would you forgive him? Maybe, Sophie confessed after a lengthy moment. Exactly, Linda replied, nodding confidently. So many couples break up not because they stop loving each other, but because they can't understand each other's hidden desires. They might still love their spouse sincerely, she said. But inside, there's a fire, a desire. They're too embarrassed to confess. Instead of discussing it, they sneak around. When the truth comes out, they are unable to forgive, and everything falls apart. If they open up, communicate, and understand each other better, their marriage could be the happiest ever, because then their sex life would be exciting and fulfilling. Sophie listened in quiet, astounded by how brazen and weirdly logical everything seemed. I mean, Linda said, you have only ever known David, but let's be honest, he's no beginner in bed. He's in his 30s, and obviously seasoned. You knew the moment he touched you. Sophie reddened again, but did not intervene. Don't you worry about his past, Linda inquired. No, everybody has a past. What matters is the present. Sophie said, he loves me now, right? And he is good at what he does. Every night he makes you melt, right? Linda leaned closer and lowered her voice. Despite all of this, you still feel like something is missing, don't you? Sophie looked at her companion, astonished. It was as if Linda could read her soul. Don't worry, Linda remarked kindly. You aren't odd. You're only now uncovering aspects of yourself that you've never examined. Do you think that's why I reacted this way to my father-in-law? Sophie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I do, Linda replied. You didn't just feel awkward. You were tempted, and don't say you weren't. Sophie gazed down at her cup, silently digesting the gravity of Linda's statement. Sophie took another sip of her drink and softly inquired, "So what should I do?" Linda did not respond soon away. She tilted her head and smiled mischievously. "Honestly, I believe you already know, you're just afraid to admit it." "Right." Then the door behind them opened. A young man stepped out onto the garden, barefoot, his hair unkempt, still wearing a baggy t-shirt and shorts. Sophie instinctively turned to gaze. Catching her breath, Linda had referred to him as M. It was the same boy she had heard earlier, upstairs. "Linda, is that your cousin Sophie?" asked quietly. Linda responded, "Yep," without any sense of shame. "He is staying with me while he studies cute, right?" Sophie did not answer, instead, staring at the boy who gave a courteous nod and grin. "Hello, Chi," he said softly. "Will you remain for lunch? I can cook something." "Oh no, I was just visiting," Sophie said hastily, startled. The boy grinned again and disappeared into the house. Linda leaned near as Sophie rose up to leave. "Do you see," she whispered, "desire takes many forms. It's not always about love. It can also be about discovery." Sophie wasn't sure how to answer. She felt warm, bewildered, excited and afraid. "I have to go," she said. "David's flying early tomorrow. I need to help him pack." "Of course," Linda said with a cheeky smile. "Remember what I said. It's okay to desire more, as long as you're honest with yourself." Sophie rushed down the stairs, her pulse hammering. Linda returned to the house where her cousin remained in the kitchen. She flashed him a covert smile and wink. Sophie had no idea they had planned everything. What about the boy? He had nearly succeeded in enticing her. Almost that evening, dinner was calm and uneventful. Mr. Thomas pretended nothing had happened, which made Sophie feel a little less anxious. Sophie and David headed up to their room around 8 p.m. after finishing their supper and tidying up, knowing he had to leave early the next morning. David wasted no time. They made love quickly and fiercely, yet Sophie sighed quietly afterwards. She couldn't quit thinking about her time at Linda's. A strange, restless feeling arose within her. "Hey," she murmured, turning to face David. "Your mother went away a long time ago. Your father was still very young at the time. Why have you never encouraged him to remarry?" There were no responses. She turned over and saw that he was already deep asleep, snoring quietly. She thought cruelly, he can't even stay awake following sex. Sophie, frustrated, switched off the light and attempted to fall asleep. But her thoughts raced with unanswered questions, unsatisfied needs, and ambiguous borders. She hadn't dared to cross yet. At 5 a.m., David awoke to prepare for his departure. He went downstairs and found his father already awake. "Why are you up this early, Dad?" "I could not sleep. I felt heated and restless. I figured I'd take a shower. Do you recall that I'm flying today?" Yeah, my memory is not what it used to be. Well, I will be gone for a week. Take care of yourself and keep an eye on Sophie for me. She's too attractive for her own good. I don't want any guys to hit on her." "Don't worry," said Mr. Thomas, chuckling. "I'll keep her safe." David walked outdoors carrying his suitcase. A car pulled up and the driver loaded his belongings into the trunk. Mr. Thomas stood there, watching carefully at the gate as it gently slid shut. He then discovered something, a small keychain that had been dropped under the living room table. It was David's spare keyring, which contained the key to the bedroom. A spark of temptation appeared in his eyes. He lifted it up slowly and quietly, then mounted the steps. Mr. Thomas approached the bedroom door and inserted one key after another until click, the third one worked. The lock disengaged with a quiet, chilly sound, like a cat. He softly cranked the knob and slipped inside. The warm glow of the night lamp cast a dim light throughout the room. Sophie was still sleeping soundly in bed. Her breathing was deep and even, and her body rose and fell beneath the thin sheet that barely covered her. Mr. Thomas stood still and watched her torn between guilt and want. He moved closer. Sophie suddenly shifted. Is it still early? She mumbled sleepily, panicked. He sank to the floor beside the bed, hiding from her view, but she did not wake up. She was still dreaming and breathing gently. She grimaced slightly. Something did not feel right. His fragrance is different today. Her eyes snapped open, but before she could react, Mr. Thomas had already taken the risk. He couldn't bear any more. Instinct had trumped reason. What followed was a swirl of emotion, weakness, and suppressed yearning. Sophie, trapped between uncertainty and the echo of her own fantasies, hesitated just long enough to cross the queue. Later, tears ran down her cheeks. She covered herself in a robe and moved quietly to the restroom. At 8 a.m., David arrived at Tan Son Nhat Airport in Saigon. The June sun shone through the windows, and he squinted as he got into a taxi. Sophie remained in her chamber, her thoughts heavy and her heart torn. What about Mr. Thomas? He sat alone in the living room, staring at nothing, the luggage he had packed unopened. The enormity of what he had accomplished was staggering. The moment of desire was past, leaving only shame. Mr. Thomas hadn't moved in more than an hour. He sat still, his eyes fixed on the suitcase in front of him. Sophie hadn't come downstairs yet, and he was worried about what she might be thinking, or worse doing. What did I do? He had a thought. I've wrecked everything. I have deceived my son. I have hurt her. He clenched his fists. You are a monster, he told himself. You do not deserve to be in this mansion. His chest squeezed with guilt and shame. He needed to leave, but before he could leave, he had to apologize, not to erase his conscience, but because she earned it. He climbed the stairs with his legs trembling. When he entered the bedroom door, Sophie was still lying on the bed, dressed but motionless. Her chest rose and fell slowly, but her eyes remained open. She'd been awake the entire time. I know you're not asleep, he whispered softly. I need to say something. He perched on the edge of the bed, his voice trembling. I'm so sorry, Sophie. I have done something unforgivable. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to hear it. I'm leaving the house when David returns. Tell him how much I miss home. Tell him anything but not the truth. Please. Sophie did not move. I do not deserve to see any of you again, but I hope you both find happiness, real happiness. He rose to leave, but her voice stopped him, quiet, cold, and steady. I don't want your apology, she responded. I want you to take responsibility. He turned around shocked. What do you mean? She carefully rose from the bed, moved up to him, and placed her arms around his neck. Her lips brushed lightly against his. He backed away, stunned. Sophie, what are you doing? I told you, she whispered. You can't walk away, you are going to accept responsibility. And in that silent chamber, the storm that had been brewing for days finally spilt forth. The taxi arrived in front of a magnificent mansion on the outskirts of Saigon. David stepped out, his heart racing as memories of the sight returned. This house had many memories from his past. He stood for a while taking it all in before ringing the bell. Moments thereafter, a woman emerged. Nina, his cousin, is elegant and beautiful. She is elegant and charming, dressed in a fitting turtleneck top and knee-length skirt. David. Oh, it's actually you. When did you arrive? Why didn't you call ahead? Sorry, Chi. I had a business trip and planned to stay here for a week. You are too courteous. This is also your house. You can stay as long as you wish. She spoke cheerfully. Come on in. I was about to go shopping. David followed her inside, dragging his suitcase with him. You're married now, right? She said as they entered. I am very sorry I was unable to attend the wedding. Queenon is studying abroad. Correct. Yes, he said, smiling. Thank you. Chi. Business has been good. I have seen your wife on Facebook. She's beautiful. You're lucky. Not as lucky as your husband David, said with a wry smirk. You are still gorgeous. Chai, you do not look a day over 30. Oh, please, she said, laughing. Things aren't as cheerful as they used to be. Besides, my hubby left on a 2-week trip abroad yesterday. David's eyes brightened up slightly. He came closer and softly hugged her from behind. So the house is all ours, right? He whispered. I've missed you. Hey, she gasped. Careful, my daughter is upstairs. He released his grip, startled. Sorry, I didn't know, Nina giggled. Do not worry. She went out with her friends. She won't be back until tonight. They locked eyes and old emotions rose up. They didn't need to say anything else. Desire reigned supreme in that peaceful sunlit abode, far from home, and repercussions. Around 13:30 a.m. Mr. Thomas remained immobile in the living room. His gaze locked on the suitcase. Sophie had not come downstairs. Did she change her mind? Was she regretting what had happened? God, he thought. Which kind of man am I? I have polluted her. I have betrayed my own son. What should I do now? He hid his face in his palms. You do not deserve to live in this house. You do not deserve forgiveness. His chest hurt from guilt. The euphoria from the night before had vanished, leaving only humiliation and anxiety. Sophie lay motionless in bed. She wasn't sleepy, but she didn't want to move. The guilt was thick, crushing. She was not innocent in this situation. She'd played along. Worse, she desired it. I'm no better than him, she reasoned. What have I become? Mr. Thomas rose up and moved his suitcase to the door. But before he could reach it, a voice rang out. Dad, wait. He froze. I turned around. Sophie stood a few meters behind him, her eyes red and puffy from unshed tears. Are you just going to leave? What happened after that? Mr. Thomas didn't say anything. He couldn't meet her gaze. What should I tell David when he gets back? That you left because you missed being home. That is a falsehood. Everything will be a lie. Her voice crackled. You've done this to me, to us, and now you want to walk away like nothing happened. He looked at her eventually. His heart broke, Sophie. I apologize, I really am. I don't want your apology, she murmured, moving closer. I want you to take responsibility. What do you mean? He asked, perplexed. She did not respond with words. She moved into his arms, raised her chin and kissed him slowly and deliberately. His eyes expanded. Sophie, what are you doing? I told you, she whispered. You are going to take responsibility. All of it. What ensued was a frenzied, desperate jumble of sorrow, surrender, passion and punishment. Their bodies collided again, this time not out of passion, but because of a warped feeling of consequence. For nearly 2 hours, they lost themselves in each other, knowing that the damage was irreparable. A week later, the cab arrived at the same residence, but this time it was carrying David, who had returned from a business trip. He stepped outside, luggage in hand, and glanced up at the calm villa. Although everything appeared to be the same, something felt odd. The first thing he noticed upon entering was the stillness. Dad, he called Sophie. No one responded. He wheeled his bag inside and noticed Sophie in the kitchen. She turned and smiled, but her eyes appeared worn and almost lifeless. Welcome home, she murmured quietly. Where is Dad? He left the day after you did, she said hastily. Said he missed home, wanted to go back to the countryside. Huh, David scowled. He said nothing to me. That's odd. He instructed me to tell you. He left in a hurry, she said, not meeting his eyes. David approached, set down his luggage, and embraced her from behind. I missed you, he muttered. Sophie leaned into him automatically. I missed you too. But inside, her heart was torn. Guilt, desire, regret. Everything swirled together like a never-ending maelstrom. She stared at the photo of the 3 of them on the wall, her David and Mr. Thomas, and wondered, can I ever forget? Can I ever return to who I was? David kissed her neck, unknowing.